The one big, beautiful bill delivered on the mandate we were given last November, which included the largest reduction in mandatory spending in our history. It strengthens Medicaid for vulnerable Americans by rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse.
House Majority Whip Congressman Tom Emmer.
Think about this, Mike. Over the last 10 years, the estimate is there have been over $1 trillion in improper payments made in Medicaid. That's what we're going after. It prevents the largest tax increase in history. I believe we saved my constituents a tax increase of 24%. It's an easy sell, Mike, for myself and our members to make at home because it delivers on historic wins for every single American.
Is the reason President Trump wanted this so badly is because if he does an executive order, that can be wiped out by the next president. But this should have staying power and longevity.
This is going to be President Trump's legacy. His leadership in getting us here was instrumental. But this is all of us. We campaign right with him on these historic, especially the tax policy, Mike. Think about this. We've been living under a temporary tax policy in this country for decades. It doesn't help with predictability and certainty, which is so necessary in the market. And I don't care where you stand on tax policy being one thing or the other. The fact that now we have a permanent tax policy that people can rely on when planning for their future, I think makes one of the greatest differences we're going to see in our economic growth and prosperity over the next decade and years to come.
I covered the Obama White House when then President Obama got Obamacare across the finish line. I remember Republicans in several cycles after that basically campaigning against his signature legislation. Democrats are sounding like they want to try to run against this package. What do you think the impact will be next year?
It's the beauty of this whole thing. Remember, Obamacare is an example, and later, or more recently, the Inflation Reduction Act. Those two Democrat-led initiatives were immensely popular when they passed. And 6 to 12 months later, Mike, the American public felt like they had been bamboozled and misled and had serious buyer's remorse. In this case, there's all kinds of popular stuff in this, and Democrats are trying to give misinformation and lies, frankly, about the reforms that have been put in Medicaid and SNAP to strengthen those programs for the people they're intended to, and rooting out the waste, fraud, and abuse. It will not have any of the negative impacts that Democrats want to claim, and frankly, it will put everybody in a better position for a future of prosperity and security in this country. Americans will reap the benefits, and I think in the midterms in 2026, that's why Republicans are going to hold the House in the midterms.
One of the attacks from Democrats is this will hurt rural health care. The beautiful state of Minnesota, your home state, has plenty of rural areas. What do you want to say to folks who may be living in a rural part of Minnesota or elsewhere across the country about their health care going forward?
Mike, this bill actually took into account the challenges that rural health care has in this country, my state as well, and we're going to be able to address that directly. And I would imagine that the problem will get addressed in the coming years as well, because what we're trying to do, I think, in the bill is put reforms in place so that we can strengthen our healthcare system, so that we can have more American citizens getting access to the best healthcare in the world, whether they be in urban areas or rural areas or in between. So I think the bill will sell itself as these things take place over the next 12 months.
Another line of attack from the Democrats is, if you have Medicaid, you're going to have a problem. For those who are legitimately on Medicaid, do you want to reassure them that they will be covered?
Look, all of it is misinformation. The American public are smarter than these political elites in the new Marxist Socialist Democrat Party of America who are making these false claims. Bottom line is we didn't kick anybody off unless you're talking about the illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. There's like 1.4 million on Medicaid. And while the Senate parliamentarian knocked out some of our language, by law, they are not supposed to be on the program in the first place. So what the big bill did was it strengthened the verification requirements. So people who are supposed to have this coverage, the disabled, the single mom who's trying to get by with 1, 2, 3 or more dependents. This is who this program was intended for. And Republicans, with Donald Trump's leadership, are strengthening the program to make sure that the benefits are available for those people that it's intended for.
Another victory for you and your whip team was getting the so-called rescissions package across the finish line in the House of Representatives. For folks at home, that's basically clawing back some of the money that's been previously allocated. It would rescind $1.1 billion in taxpayer support for public broadcasting, $8.3 billion in foreign aid. What about getting that done, and are you hopeful the Senate will get it across the finish line soon?
Yeah, the rescissions package that you're referencing that we passed last month was a great first step in rooting out wasteful spending. You talk about the $9.4 billion that's in it, Mike, but we've got to be clear. When we say public broadcasting, all of a sudden people start getting this, that's something that we like. Well, I tell you what. I personally think we should be competing in the marketplace, the private marketplace. We shouldn't be subsidizing people to compete against the private marketplace. But that's part aside. This thing is funding things like Sesame Street in Iraq and voter ID in Haiti. Interesting how we have voter ID in Haiti, but we don't want to have it in this country. The Senate should pass this thing this week, Mike, and it's a great first step because this president and his administration are all about rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. Let's make sure these programs are actually supporting the things that we intend them to support.
Your colleagues in House Oversight have been digging into the use of the auto pen and the alleged decline of President Biden during his time in office. What are you hearing about the investigation, and do you think they'll get to the bottom of the alleged cover-up?
Well, I think this goes beyond just the White House because I'll never forget a year ago after the debate between Joe Biden and President Trump, all of a sudden the national news media did this imaginary, we had no idea. Look, Mike, President Biden's cognitive decline was obvious to anyone with eyes. I think this past week, Joe Biden's doctor all but confirmed this massive cover-up by pleading the fifth before Jamie Comer and the House Oversight Committee. James Comer, by the way, from Kentucky, our chairman of the Oversight Committee, is the absolute right man to lead this investigation because he will not let up until we get the answers that the American people deserve.
Big week ahead, working on crypto in the House of Representatives. Can you give us a bit of a preview of what Crypto Week is all about?
Well, this is the most pro-crypto Congress ever, Mike. This week, we're going to be voting on the Clarity Act. We're going to be voting on my anti-central bank digital currency surveillance state act. And we're going to vote on the Senate's Genius Act, which is about stable coins. And by passing these bills, we're going to protect Americans' right to privacy, and we're going to ensure innovation remains right here in the United States of America. It's going to be a big week.
Do you want to highlight the work of Chairman French Hill in the House Financial Services Committee that I think is kind of in the middle of a lot of this stuff?
Well, it's got to be both. First, it's President Trump's leadership, right? He said when he took office, he wants a market structure bill, which is the Clarity Act, which tells people how they're going to be treated, what regulator they're going to have to report to, whether they're a currency, whether they're a security, whether they're a commodity, something that's desperately needed so people know the rules of the road. That's what keeps them coming to this country and investing. The anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act is to stop our government from ever creating a central bank digital currency, which we know the Chinese have created the digital yuan, which is nothing more than a surveillance tool on its citizens. We never want that happening in this country. President Trump, during his campaign, said he will prohibit a central bank digital currency ever being created by our federal government. So that delivers on that promise. But you got to give a big thumbs up to Bill Hagerty, Cynthia Lummis, a bunch of our colleagues on the Senate side for the Genius Act, which is the stablecoin, dollar-backed stablecoin legislation, which literally is going to create a situation where we can export U.S. dollars all around the world.
Sunday marked 1 year since the assassination attempt on then candidate Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. We've seen some government reports coming out about the failures of Secret Service that day. What are your reflections a year later, and are you confident Secret Service has tightened things up?
I will never forget the day. None of us will, but I'll never forget what day it's on, because it was, I was in a hospital waiting for the arrival of a grandson who was born actually on the 14th, but we were watching it real time. It was, it's one of those emotional things that you'll never forget, kind of like, some of the other major events in history. But looking back, the question is, why? Why don't we know more about this shooter? Why don't we know more about his parents? Why have they never spoken up? I mean, there are just so many unanswered questions, and we got to keep reminding ourselves, someone lost his life. A father, a husband, a son lost his life in this event, and we need answers. So a year later, one, it's a reflection that God actually stepped in and kept our great president with us for a reason, and we need answers. We need answers for that family, and we need answers for Americans as to why this was allowed to happen.
The Majority Whip of the House of Representatives, Congressman Tom Emmer of the beautiful state of Minnesota. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Have a great week.
You too, Mike.